Okay, so let's start today's class. Today we will go to chapter 4 and chapter 5. So two chapters. Chapter 4, actually we will only go through two parts only. So some parts from chapter 3, some parts from chapter 4, we'll skip it. Okay, like what? Like part 1, learning goal 1 is about Excel. So Excel, the tool is quite important for you guys because when we talk about numbers, usually we use the tool Excel to do it. Okay, so it's quite useful tool you have to learn. But because of time, we don't have enough time to teach you how to use Excel. But you have the chance, our school, our department, they have some workshop in the afternoon. So you can join the workshop. It's like three or four times classes for the workshop, Excel workshop. Also, you can at the same time you can earn your 职涯点数. Okay, I'm not sure. Do you need to get the 职涯点数? 20 point? They have to. Yeah. So anyway, so this why we skip the part 1 is about Excel. And for last part, statement of financial position. Still remember what is statement of financial position? Statement of financial position, balance sheet, 资产负债表. We've mentioned from last week. Tell you about asset, liability, equity. So what's the purpose for this financial statement? Tell you the company's true value. Okay. So we mentioned this already, but here told you classified. Classified means even though for assets, we have so many assets, so we try to classify them into subgroups. So like what? Like for you classmates, you are in the same class, right? But still you have your own group, subgroup, right? You have your own friends. So the same for assets, for liabilities, we have the subgroup for assets liabilities. But so far, because you haven't learned enough assets liabilities yet, so we skip this part to next semester, chapter 9. All right. So that's why from chapter 4, we only want to mention two concepts for you guys. First is closing, 结账. But for closing the book, 结账, we just want to mention the concept. We just want to mention the concepts. So how to use the concepts, how to use the journal entry for this part, we will skip it because closing entries, 结账分录, is quite accounting jobs. Only when you do accounting jobs, you need to know how to do it. So if you won't do any accounting jobs, it's okay. You don't know how to do it. You just need to understand the concepts. So that's why for closing the book, we just want to mention the concepts. Okay? Second part we want to mention for today is correcting entries. 更正分录. When we made any mistake, right? So when you made any mistakes, what should we do? Correct it, right? So the same, any mistake we made in your life, what should we do? Correct it. Any mistake we have in accounting, what should we do? Correct it. Okay? So this is two parts we want to mention in chapter 4. Closing the book, 结账. Also, correcting entries, 更正分录. Okay? So why we need closing the book, 结账? Why we need it? in case you forgot, all the process we have so far. So what the process we have so far? First, analyze transactions, right? From your chapter 1. Analyze transactions, 分析交易. After that, what should we do? Record the transactions onto accounting books, right? Journal and ledger from your chapter 2, right? After that, what should we do? We do our first double check, prepare trial balance. So this is first double check. Okay? After that, we've done 90% jobs, right? So what should we do? We need to finish the remaining 10% jobs. So from your chapter 3, we prepare adjusting entries, 调整分录, right? After that, don't forget, every steps, we have to make sure we got correct numbers. So we do our second double check, adjusted trial balance, 调整后试算表, right? So this is our second double check. Okay, after that, finally we got 100% data, right? Then what should we do? From last week, we prepare 4 financial statements, right? Okay, so far we've done this, prepare financial statements, okay? Today, we want to mention the last one, closing the book. So closing the book is the last step in accounting whole process. Okay? After closing the book, we finish whole year jobs, whole year process. Before we talk about that, from chapter 1, analyze transactions, record onto accounting books. How often we do this step? Analyze transaction, record onto accounting books. How often we do this? How often? We analyze transaction, record onto accounting books. How often means every day, every week, every month, every year. How often? Every day, right? Why? Transaction happen every day. So of course, we have to figure out what happened inside the company every day, right? So we have to figure out what happened inside the company every day. So of course, we do these steps every day, right? Okay. After that, when we do our first double check, we do double check every day. Impossible. We don't have enough time to do that double check every day, right? We only do the double check on the last day, right? So after we collect, we record, analyze whole transactions on the last day, we double check it, right? So here, period means at the end of each month, at the end of each quarter, at the end of each year, okay? So we do double check on the last day, okay? After this, when, how often we do, we prepare adjusting entries. When? For adjusting entries, usually when we do this kind of process. When? Chapter 3. Do you remember we've mentioned which date we will prepare adjusting entries and do our second double check? Last day, right? Because we still have 10% jobs we haven't done yet. Because we are too lazy. Since you are too lazy, you don't want to do it. So you are going to wait until last day, right? Okay. So finally, we do these kind of things. Then, how often we prepare our financial statements? Remember? From chapter, at the beginning of chapter 3, we've mentioned how often we prepare financial statements. So far, we don't have enough time to prepare financial statements every month. So impossible so far. In the future, it could be because we use AI to do it. But right now, impossible. So we can do only prepare quarter of annual financial statements. Okay. So financial statement, when you want to Google every company's financial statements, you only could find out each quarter's financial statements, each year's financial statements. Okay. Impossible so far for monthly financial statements. Okay. Okay, that's a whole process we have so far. And I hope you understand each process. So the step, closing the book, 结账, it actually is quite accounting. So if you don't do accounting jobs, you don't need to understand. You don't need to understand how to do it. It's okay. It's totally only for accounting jobs. We need to do that. Okay. So this step, last step, we do it only for annually. Okay. So we just do it once at the end of each year. Okay. So it's annually. So just do it once at the end of each year. Okay. So could you guess what's the purpose for closing the book? We just do it once at the end of each year. So we do it actually is for next year. Okay. So we do the last step closing the book. It's not because of this year's process. It's because we are ready for next year. So we have to do closing the book. Okay. So what's the closing the book? Here, did you find out? We only do it once at the end of each year. So just do it once at the end of each year. For what? Do you know? We just do it once at the end of each year. So we do it for next year. So because of next year, we have to prepare everything ready for next year. So this step, not for every account. It's not. Only for some account. Because some accounts, we had to make it ready for next year. So which account we need to do closing the book, 结账. I use two financial statements to let you understand which accounts we need to do closing the book, 结账. Balance sheet, right? So any items we have from balance sheet, 资产负债表. Asset, liability, equity, right? So from from balance sheet, we want to get the information for asset, liability, equity. So what's the purpose from this? We want to know the company's value, right? So based on the case right here, could you tell me what is the company's value? Based on this, the company's value, how much? How much? Company's value. I give you some hint. If you had the cash $100, but you owe your friend money $80, so actually how much money you have? Sorry? You have a money cash $100. At the same time, you owe your friend money $80. Okay? So actually, how much money you have? 20. Okay? So apply to this. Could you tell me the company's value? You had the cash 100. cash 100 is your asset, right? You owe your friend money, $80. So you have what? Liability, $80, right? Because you owe someone money. So what is your true value? Asset minus liability, right? 20. So based on this, what's the company's true value? 130, right? Why? Assets minus liability. So that's a true value the company have, okay? And also they equal to equity, because equity we talk about the company's owner, okay? So shareholders' money in the company, okay? So the company's true value is 130, okay? If you forgot, you can go back to chapter 3. Last week, we mentioned this already. So based on this, did you find out the numbers? All the numbers right here? 150, 20, 130. Could you tell me 100, the meaning behind number is more important, okay? 100 could be $100. 100 could be 100 units, right? So the meaning behind numbers is quite important. So for this, 150, 20, 130, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means the number is from first day is only for this year, 2025, or these numbers are from the company's first date when we start up the company to right now. So maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, okay? So which one? When we talk about asset, liability, equities, for example, cash 100. When we tell you the company have the cash 100, that 100 only mean this year they have a cash 100, or means from the company's first day when we start about the company to right now, maybe 10 years. So for this 10 years totally right now they have a cash 100. So which one? One or two? Should be? You can think about it. Hi, Elaine. How many pencils? How many pens you have? How many pens? I mean, not only Apple Pen. How many pens you have? Pens you have? Maybe 10. Okay. You told me I have 10 pens, right? You got 10 pens from this year, or you got your pens from maybe 5 years ago to right now. Totally, you don't know. You just totally you got 10 pens so far. Which one? Second one, right? So when we ask how much money you have, it's not only for this year, right? It's from the first day you the first day to right now you are 18 years old, right? So totally 18 years old, you will answer me, I have the money $100,000. Why I have a money $100,000? Because when I was a kid, every year my parents will give me the red envelope. So I collect all the cashes so far totally and got cash $100,000, right? So if I ask you, hi, how many bicycles you have? You told me I have 3 bicycles. So when you answer me, you have 3 bicycles, is because this year you got 3 bicycles? It's not. It's because totally, since the first day to right now, 18 years old, you have a totally 3 bicycles, right? So when we ask assets liabilities, is for the whole periods so far you have, right? Okay, so should be 2. When we talk about assets, liabilities, equities, all the numbers, they are accumulated, right? So in Chinese, maybe you heard 财富累积 right? 财富是累积的嘛，不会，你不会说，今年我有多少钱吧？你会说，我 total 有多少钱？那 total 多久？ 18岁，所以到目前为止我就有多少钱。OK， so when we talk about asset, liability, equities, these are accumulated. So when we mention 财富, when we mention your wealth, your values, always we mention accumulated. Okay? It's quite different because you should understand 100, what does it mean? 100 only for 1 year? Or 100 days accumulated? Because the meaning totally different. Okay, any questions? No problem? So that's from balance sheet. Then how about our second one? Statement of comprehensive income, 综合损益表. Remember, how many items we have from statement of comprehensive income? Statement of comprehensive income, what kind of information we want to mention? We want to provide. What kind of information? From statement of comprehensive income. We want to know whether your company made the money or not, right? So we want to know whether your company made a profit or not. So when we talk about the profit, remember from last week, we have a two profit, right? So the first profit, net income. What's the second profit? OCI, right? So net income is the first profit we have. So when we do the business, sell the product, provide the service, when we do the business, whether we made a profit or not, right? So how about second profit, OCI, other comprehensive income, 其他综合损益. OCI, the profit we got, because you are lucky, because the profit we cannot control, like exchange rate, okay? So like your currency rate, one currency rate increase, decrease, they will make you got the gain or loss. So there's a second profit we got, cannot be controlled, right? So anyway, from 1 and 2 totally, we got a total profit is 1 plus 2. Okay? Remember? That's from last week. So based on statement of comprehensive income, 综合损益表, we could find out whether your company made the money, profit or not, right? Okay. So when we want to know your company made a profit or not, could you tell me the numbers again? Is only for this year or they are accumulated? Which one? You made a profit or not? How much money you made? When I ask this question, is only for this month, this year, or is accumulated for your whole life? 学姐, when I ask you, what's your salary? So when I ask, what's your salary? How much money you made? You think I ask you this month, what's your salary? This year, what's your salary? Or I ask for your whole life, what's your salary? This month, right? So when we ask how much money you made, 你赚多少钱? Usually the question is for 1 year, right? Okay. So the numbers on statement of comprehensive income, when we talk about revenue, expenses, dividends, all the numbers right here only for 1 year. They is not accumulated. Okay. So did you find out different? 100. Go back to balance sheet. Balance sheet, when you find out cash 100, you should understand, even though they have the same number 100, this 100 on balance sheet is accumulated, right? But go back to statement of comprehensive income, even though they have the same number, 100, but different meaning, right? This 100 revenues only for this year. So 100, what does it mean? Totally different meaning, right? So the meaning behind each number is more important. 100, 100, different meaning. Okay? So statement of comprehensive income, 综合损益表 here, we talk about all those numbers. That's only for this year. Okay? They are not accumulated. Okay? Any questions? So you should understand these two financial statements, their numbers are different. Balance sheet, their numbers are accumulated. Statement of comprehensive income, their numbers only for this year. Okay? So that's the reason why we need last step, closing the book, 结账. Okay? So did you find out for statement of comprehensive income, all the numbers only for this year, right? So how about next year? Next year, we want to get next year's number, we should start from 0, right? So we should start from 0 because of statement of comprehensive income. All the numbers only for this year. So how about next year? Next year, start from 0 to get next year's number, okay? So because of this reason, that's why we need to do closing the book. Closing the book. Why? We want to make beginning balance of next year become 0, okay? So we want to make next year's number beginning balance become 0. So what's our purpose closing the book? 结账. Closing the book, we have to make the accounts number become 0 for next year. Because all the numbers right here only for 1 year. So how about next year? We have to get next year's number start from 0. Okay? So because of this reason purpose, we have to do closing the book. Make some accounts. Their balance become 0 for next year. Okay, so some accounts, remember some accounts. Which account? Right here, okay? So usually revenue, expenses, and dividends. Only for these 3 accounts. Some accounts. Here we call it temporary accounts. So should be revenue, expenses, and dividends. Okay, so we have to do the last step, closing the book, 结账, only for revenue, expenses, dividends. These 3 accounts, because these 3 accounts, their numbers only for 1 year. They are not accumulated. That's why we have to use closing entries, closing the book, to make their accounts become 0 for next year. Okay, so these 3 accounts, their amounts are only for 1 year. Not accumulated. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so here show you revenue expenses dividends. They are temporary account, normally account. Temporary account, nominal account, 虚账户、临时账户。Temporary account, 临时账户。Okay, so means what? Means they're only for 1 year. How about permanent account? 永久账户。Means they're accumulated. Okay? So because revenue expenses dividends, their numbers only for 1 year. So that's why we need to do crossing the book to make their numbers become 0 for next year. Crossing the book, 结账。To make accounts ready for next year. Okay? So that's a concept we have, crossing the book. So why we need to do the crossing the book? Because revenue, expenses, dividends, all the numbers are only for 1 year. So how about next year? Next year, they start from 0. So we have to use crossing the book to make the accounts become 0 because we are ready for next year to record next year's situations. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, so here is show you some example case here. See, we have a revenues. So if you made the revenues the whole year, after the whole year, you find out this year total revenue you earn is $20,000, right? So for the whole year, we earn the revenue $20,000. But how about next year? You should understand when we talk about revenues, it's only for 1 year, right? So how about next year? Next year, we start from 0, try to get next year's number. See? So how could you make the number on this account, sales revenue? We have the numbers already, right? How could you make it become 0? You cannot use your eraser, just erase it and change the number. You cannot do that, right? So how should we do? We use cursing the book, the concept, try to make the number become 0 for next year because we try to get next year's number. Okay, so that's our purpose. We try to do that. So 3 questions. When? When we do cursing the book? When? Only once, right? So at the end of each year. So only once we do that. Don't forget, why only once? Why only at the end of each year? Because our purpose is to try to make next year's account ready. So of course, we do it at the end of each year, okay? Then, what's our purpose? Here, right? Our purpose is to make this account's number become 0 for next year. So we try to make the account's number become 0 for next year. Okay? Then what's the target? Which account? We need to curse in the book. Revenue, expenses, and dividends. Okay? So that's what we try to do. Our purpose, our concepts right here. Okay? Any questions? Based on these concepts, that's why we need to use journal entries. Any numbers, any records we want to change, you cannot use eraser to change it. You cannot, because all those numbers here, they are money. Okay, so since all those numbers here, they are money, you cannot just use eraser to change it. You cannot. Any number, any step, any records you want to change, you have to use journal entry to let everyone know what happened. Okay, so we want to achieve this purpose. Actually, we have a cursing entry we have to use. Okay, and how to make the number become 0. Impossible. That's your money, right? So every number that's your money, could you just throw it away to make it become 0? Impossible. So actually, closing the book, we just transfer the number to somewhere. Like what? You had the money, right? So I told you, you cannot put the money right here. So how should you do? You transfer it to somewhere, right? So which where we can transfer revenue, expenses, dividends. Which account we could transfer revenue, expenses, dividends number to somewhere. Where? Which account is related to revenue, expenses, dividends at the same time? Retained earnings. How to get retained earnings? Revenue minus expenses minus dividends. Okay? So when we had the money, actually, we didn't just make it become 0. Impossible. We transfer it to somewhere. Where? Retained earnings. Okay? So how should we do? We use closing entry 结账分录 to transfer your revenue, expenses, dividends number to retained earnings. Okay, so that's how we do. We use closing entry. So we use closing entry to transfer revenue, expenses, dividends number to retained earnings. Okay? Any questions? So that's what we are going to do. But how to do that? We skip this part. So how to prepare closing entry? We skip this part because it's quite accounting jobs. So you don't know it, it's okay. You just need to understand the concepts. Okay? So how to do it? Actually, if you learn accounting well, it's quite easy. But because for most of you guys, you won't do accounting job, so it's okay because only it's quite specific. Only you really do specific accounting job, you need to know it. Okay? So the concept you understand it is enough. Any questions? Okay. So let's review again. When we do that, only at the end of each year, right? Okay. So when we do it, only at the end of each year, we do it once. Why? What's the purpose? Because we want to make some accounts number become zero, right? So we make revenue, expenses, dividends. Make the account become zero, ready for next year, right? Okay? Target. Then we transfer revenue, expenses, dividends number to retained earnings, right? So how we do that? We transfer revenue, expenses, dividends. So net income means revenue and expenses. Transfer them to where? To retained earnings. Okay? So we just transfer the number to somewhere. We cannot just make it become zero because all the numbers, they are your money. So how could you make your money become zero? Impossible. We just put it to somewhere. Somewhere where? Retained earnings. Okay? Any questions? Okay? So after we've done this process, remember, accounting always, after you've done some process, we have to double check, right? So after we closing the book, then still we have to do our double check. So this double check is our third time double check after closing the book. So we call it post-closing trial balance. Post-closing trial balance. 结账后试算表。Post closing means what? Is after we've done closing the book. So this is our third time double check. Okay? So how many times double check we have? 3 times. First is trial balance. Second is adjusted trial balance. Third is post-closing trial balance. Okay? Then this is our post-closing trial balance 结账后试算表. Could you find out two differences from this? What's the first difference? After closing the book, right? So what's our numbers for revenue, expenses, and dividends? After closing the book. After we transfer revenue, expenses, dividends number to retained earnings. After that, what's your numbers for revenue, expenses, and dividends? Huh? No, I mean, what's your numbers for revenue, expenses, dividends? After closing the book. 0, right? After closing the book, our numbers for revenue, expenses, and dividends should be 0, right? See? After closing the book, your revenue, expenses, dividends number should be 0. Why? Because we transfer number to retained earnings already, right? So after closing the book, don't forget what's our purpose. To make revenue, expenses, dividends number become 0. Okay? So become 0. So did you find out revenue, expenses, dividends here? No. Did you find out revenue, expenses, dividends accounts here? No more. Why? Because their number become 0. So we don't need to report it right here. Okay? So what's the first difference? You will only find out permanent account. So you will not find out revenue, expenses, and dividends. Okay? So no, first different, no revenues, expenses, and dividends. Okay? So you will not find out revenue, expenses, dividends, these accounts right here. Why? Because they become 0. So we don't need to report it right here. Okay? So first different is right. Is we don't have revenue, expenses, dividends. What's the second difference? We transfer their numbers to where? Retained earnings. So you will find out retained earnings, this number include revenue, expenses, dividends already. So second difference is your retained earnings include revenues, expenses, and dividends. Okay? So the second difference is the number already include revenue, expenses, dividends because we use closing entry transfer their numbers to retained earnings using closing the book. Okay, so this is a second difference right here. So this number, after we include the revenue, expenses, and dividends number here, so 2,400, this number is ending balance.期末余额 Okay, any questions? So that's our purpose. Don't forget, what's our purpose? Our purpose is transfer revenue, expenses, dividends number to retained earnings to make revenue, expenses, dividends number become 0 for next year. Okay? So that's how we showed the result on post-closing trial balance. Okay? So we won't find out revenue, expenses, dividends because their number transferred to retained earnings already. Any questions? Okay, so that's the first part we want to mention for closing the book. So let's take a break.